We are here in Sandton, and this is the venue for the latest in the series of New Age business briefings brought to you by the SABC, and today sponsored by Transnet. And we're speaking to the Minister of Public Service and Administration, Ms. Lindiwe Sisulu. And we've been speaking about a number of issues and priorities that are on her desk, but it's time now to engage with you, the public at home, and also with our audience here. And I'm going to go straight to our tables. And I'm not sure what table you're on. Tony Gomes, you're right here at the front, table number 9. Tony Gomes, if you could stand up and ask your question. The microphone is coming to you straight away.
Tony Gomes, BPW South Africa. Honourable Minister, in the last week alone, BPW as a non-profit organisation has lost 300,000 Rand because of bad service from government employees. We tried calling, we tried emailing, nothing. And this is a regular problem. So I'm wondering if this is part of the training that you're going to be doing, the government training, or whether there's something else, because we as members of the public feel absolutely powerless when this happens to us. Thank you.
Minister?
I'm sorry that you continue experiencing the problems that you are experiencing, but we have several lines that are now available, which we will put on the screen for you if you could take down the number. And we promise that we will increase the support and the backup of those facilities. It is very frustrating to be in a position where you're constantly complaining and nothing is being done. We promise you now we are going to do something. CETA has promised me that we will very quickly be moving into an area called Government Online. Am I correct, CETA, Government Online? Which would mean that we would be online and you would be able very directly to communicate with us, and we would be able to respond to you very quickly. We are hoping also to move to the level of mobile communication, where it is possible for us to post your answer on your mobile phone for you to record or ask your question online. I'm saying this to put pressure on CETA, because having committed themselves in this way, they have to move double fast to make sure that we can do what is necessary. It is absolutely unacceptable that 20 years down the line we should have somebody as passionately unhappy as you are. But we're working on it. The education we are providing is to make sure that we are able to respond to you, that we create a professional workforce that will respond to your concerns, understanding that they have a responsibility towards you. When all else fails, I'll give you my personal number.
Wow, okay, so now, we're not going to put your number up on the screen just yet, but...
Yes, yes, I'm open to that.
I'm just thinking though, you're saying you're going to unify the 3 spheres of government, yes. And so all the norms and standards will be the same. But if someone at some point is not happy with the service that they're getting, who do they complain to? And will you have the capacity to receive those complaints? Because you'll have, what, 1.6 million employees that can potentially let you down.
This is what we're working on feverishly, to provide the kind of call centers, the kind of toll-free numbers. The President has already established one. Arising from complaints from the public that they're not getting proper service, the President had established a hotline, which he is using very effectively, and some of the complaints go directly to the Public Service Commission, especially when they're in relation to corruption. We're increasing this and making sure that we can put the facilities that CETA is capable of at our disposal, teaching our public servants how to use that particular infrastructure, and therefore enhance our ability to deal with this. But that is our commitment. That is what we stand for. That is what you can expect in a professional service. It'll take some time, there's no doubt about it, but we need your help where it is possible, and you have a right to complain. Where you can assist, we would like you to assist. What the law does is make it mandatory that those common standards exist. What follows thereafter is practice. And what makes it even better is when we complain and do not tolerate it, and when we are out there to show that we actually care. This is our government. We can do it better. But over and above that, we would also want you to encourage our public servants. Sometimes they are dealing with situations that are beyond their control. So between complaining and assisting them, we would like you to encourage them. It's a whole range of things that will create the necessary infrastructure to give us what we would like to have.
Timeline, when do you think we'll have an ideal world?
About what? We've given you a timeline of 3 months. Within 3 months, we will be able to indicate to you how you can complain about corrupt practice, especially a corrupt official. We are working very hard. In the year that I have been here, we have accomplished much. And I have a very sulky, grumpy group of people because they're extremely overworked. But time is not on our side. We've made great promises. We have a national development plan to deliver on. We've put ourselves at the center of this delivery process. We have no option. And therefore, the timelines are actually determined for us, even without our having thought about it. We hit the ground running. We will continue running to ensure we can deliver these services, to ensure we can motivate our people to deliver these services.
Okay. Dr. Anthony Naidu, table 24. Dr. Naidu, table 24. If you could stand up, Dr. Naidu. Oh, there you go. All right. Sorry, I didn't mean it like that.
Minister, you answered part of the e-technology of the state, but it goes further than that. You know that we have an outdated PERSOL. And in fact, if you want to trace public servants' healthy performance, fraud, and deployment, we are on retention, deployment, the balance scorecards, which is the KRA, checking the competency assessment for delivery. How are we going to have a replacement intervention? It takes long. And what's your strategy around that? Thank you.
Okay, Minister.
Fortuitously, I have with me officials from CETA.
Right.
And they will be able to assist me in this because this is a technical part of the work that they are required to do because we have been suffering the same problems that Dr. Naidu standing up has indicated are a problem with ensuring that we can have access to PERSOL and improving our systems on PERSOL. We have the CEO of CETA, we have the chairperson of CETA, and the full complement of the board of CETA. If you'll allow me to ask them to respond to that question.
Okay, where's the CETA team? Let's get a microphone to you so that you can be put on record on national television forever and a day. Please raise your hand so that the microphone can come to you.
The gentleman who's just put his hand up is
Okay.
Mr. Jerry Vilagazi. He is the chairperson of the board, who is now abdicating his responsibility and giving the microphone to the CEO of CETA.
Okay, if you could stand up, sir, and just introduce yourself to South Africa.
Good morning, South Africa. Chief Executive Officer of the CETA. The South African government for a number of years now has been engaged in the project of integrated financial management system, where
Sorry,
all right. We just tend to-
CETA is powered by very sophisticated machinery. They don't deal with.
Simple microphones like
No.
the SABCs. And if I could just ask you, Mr. Vilagazi, sorry, just to turn around and face that camera there. Yeah, there we go.
The South African government has, for a number of years now, been driving a project of integrated financial management systems. And amongst the items that have to be dealt with there is a new system on payroll. While that project is underway, we have been providing upgrades on the current systems, including PESAL, depending on the issues that have been raised that need to be sorted out. And as such, the particular issue that you're dealing with, to the extent that we need to have information that relates to various employees in government that we can get from PESAL, those upgrades get done on a regular basis as and when they are requested. We will definitely look into the issues you're talking about. As you will appreciate, the projects as big as the IFMS obviously tend to run over years of time, and therefore that particular project has delayed a little bit, and we are, as I've just said, doing upgrades on the PESAL system itself to cater for various needs that have been identified.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Table 16, Joe Mpisi.
Thank you, Peter, and good morning to the Minister. I'm from Nehau. I'm the Deputy President of Nehau. And on a lighter note, we hope that we will get a better increase in the next round of negotiations.
Taking chances.
Minister, you spoke about the charter. We are one of the unions that signed the charter. What is your desired outcome of the implementation of this particular charter? Because we may sign a lot of charters, as we did in the past, but there's lack of implementation. Are you promising us this morning that we'll see the total implementation of this charter? And the next one is the attack on the president. I want to get your take about this, because this is the head of government who is now under attack by those who said our president is a liar, in particular the king of Abatempu. What is your take about that? Thank you very much.
Okay. Your thoughts, the head public servant?
Okay. Shall we start with King
Yes.
of the Abatembu? The King of the Abatembu is my king, and it is my desire to meet with him and have a discussion with him, not as a minister of government, but as one of his subjects. On the matter of Nehau and what are the commitments from government, we requested this, the service charter, because we found it was absolutely necessary. It has taken us the better part of a year to get unions to sign, and I'm very glad that they have signed. 75% of them have signed. We've committed ourselves to a whole lot of things that are in the charter right now, to work together, to improve service delivery together, to reinforce our partnership and commitment to service delivery improvement and for the benefit of the citizens, to clarify the rights and obligation of each party, to be in school on time, teach for 8 hours, properly dressed and etc., acknowledge and reward excellence. It's all of those things that we are committed to. And how can you be sure that this time is going to happen? I give my word. I asked you to come along with me and sign this. Why would I renege on something that I have asked you to come along and sign with me?
Okay. Table 13. Peter. You've got a good name, my friend.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, 2 questions. Number 1, the officials at the lower level are actually complaining about the wage gap between your directors and them who are working so hard. So what is being done to close that wage gap? The second one is, what are the proactive, measures and actions taken to avoid the strikes in the public service? Thank you, Minister.
Thanks, Peter.
The first one, the President in his State of the Nation address announced the Remuneration Commission and indicated that as soon as possible the Remuneration Commission would be operational. Now, the responsibility of the Remuneration Commission is to understand whether we are actually paying our public servants at the rate at which they should be paid, to analyze across the board and even deal with the wage gap that Peter is complaining about. The Remuneration Commission is ready to work. We were held back slightly by SATU and their demands, which are very well articulated in the media on a regular basis. And we had to negotiate with SATU to get beyond that angry spat so that we can allow the Remuneration Commission to do its work, because we identified particularly teaching as a problematic area where we've had grievances over a long period of time, with teachers saying that they're not paid at the level at which they think they should be paid, or not paid at the level at which other public servants are being paid. So we've targeted them as a first step. By the time we're done with the teaching profession, we'll be dealing with all of these matters, Peter, that you're talking about, the wage gap. We need to have a benchmark around which we are putting all of these systems. What is the wage for a chief director? What is the productivity level that we expect from a chief director, and all of those things? What are the proactive steps that we are taking to prevent a strike? One of them is we have now I almost said a freedom charter. We now have a service charter between ourselves and Labour that binds us to some sort of conflict resolution before it blows out of proportion. The way that the wage negotiations this time were handled was exceptional, and I must commend Labour. They were very supportive, very willing, and we reached a settlement that we are all very proud of. I heard Transnet here crowing about their successes on a two-year wage negotiation. We have a solid 3-year negotiation. Yeah. And on the back of that 3-year wage agreement are a whole lot of things, such as Labour has agreed, yes, we will professionalize the public servant. And all early entrants and all new entrants in the public service, Minister, you can take them to school and bring them back only when they're educated. The negotiated agreement is an extremely good one, and when you have the opportunity, just flip through it, and you'll see that we've put a lot of effort in creating the necessary ground for trust going forward. And when we have that trust, and we have constant discussion, we're hoping that we can, overcome some of the problems that have been encountered that lead people to a strike. We meet very regularly with Labour, and we report to them on the progress that we're making in government. They report very regularly to me, quite often very angry about something or other. And on one or two occasions they walk out, and I think the gentleman there was the one that led a walkout from my office a few weeks ago, am I correct? But it's in the spirit of building a very good relationship, and we have that in place.
All right, you've talked about pay and wages, but here's an issue perhaps which might also be playing out. Lerato Masilela writes and says, I'm a senior secretary to 3 managers, the CEO, corporate manager, and senior clinical manager, but I'm a level 6. I feel abused because the duties are too much. So she's reporting to so many people. She's probably getting paid to be reporting to one person.
I have with me here the Director General and members of the Public Service Commission. It is their responsibility to make sure that that particular grievance is addressed, and I don't know if the Director General or any members of the Public Service Commission would like to explain what they would do in a case of this nature. It is their responsibility. We have a constitutional body called Public Service Commission, and their responsibility is to make sure that all the standards and norms outlined in the Constitution are met. Their responsibility is to make sure that any grievance of any nature, such as this one, is channeled to them, and that they deal with it expeditiously. They are a very productive group of people, and I'm sure they will jump at the idea to explain themselves and what they would do to solve this particular issue.
DG, maybe you can, where's the microphone, if we could take it to table number 8? Oh, okay. So what do we tell Lerato? Because she's feeling like reporting to 3 managers, and it must be a difficult thing to balance, because each one has got their stuff is urgent. What should she do?
No, thank you. I think what you need to do is to make sure that the post that colleague is occupying, it must be evaluated so that we make sure that she's properly paid. And I think that's what we need to do. But I think it would be appropriate that we receive that complaint formally, and then we address it according to the regulations, because we do have regulations that address that problem. But what we have to do is to make sure that she's not underpaid and she's not abused. So we need to evaluate the position accordingly. Thank you.
Are you on Facebook? I'll send a Facebook message to you. Okay.
But that is now a grievance that is being lodged. We have a DG of the Public Service Commission. He should also tell us what he would do about this problem of a grade 6 person who is reporting to 300 people.
DG, Public Service Commission, if you could just also introduce yourself to South Africa.
Thank you. Thanks. My name is Richard Levine from the Public Service Commission. I think we would follow the same procedure that the acting DG of DPSA has pointed out. We would need to get the details, and we would then need to look at the job value of the job that she occupies in relation to the work that she's actually doing, and look into the detail of that, and then we would be able to deal with the complaint properly. So I think if you can forward us the particulars, we will follow up with her and explain to her the proper channels she can follow in order to take this thing forward.
Wonderful, thank you. Well,
but the message is there are mechanisms in government that she can resort to that would be able to assist her.
All right, okay. Lerato, I hope you're listening, but I will Facebook you a bit later on and those details. Mr. Makasane, table number 18. Ms. Fusi Makasane, sorry.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Minister. My name is Fusi Florence Mahasani. I'm a Deputy Chairlady of South African Networking Women in Transport. As an organization that is interacting with your public servants, law enforcement, we would like to say we believe in you, Minister, because of the changes that you brought in your previous post of Defense Force. The changes over there were overwhelming. But now on this one, it seems you have a mountain to climb regarding bribery. The law enforcers, especially on the business that we are in of taxis, they have programs that they are doing for them to get bribery. You are forced to bribe. You are not a willing partner to bribe. They have graduated even up to phoning you to bring in bribery for your vehicle that they have impounded, knowing very well that in the department, on the licensing department, there is a delay of issuing of operating licenses. But they are not willing to listen to the license department to say there is that delay. They say their job is to enforce the law, no negotiations. So what I want to know is, what is it that we can do to bring in together in one room the law enforcers and the licensing board, for us as women especially not to be frustrated because we are crippled in the businesses that we are trying to build. By impounding of vehicles, they are being repossessed because at the end of the day, you are unable to pay the installments. Thank you.
Okay. Well, so there's elaborate corruption practices in play and heavily entrenched. I mean, we talked about the culture earlier on. It is a mountain.
Well, it is a mountain. I actually, when she started off, wasn't quite certain. Now I am certain it is a mountain. Shall I think about it while and come back to that? But what seems very clear to me is that one of the things that we would need to deal with in this particular case, apart from dealing with corruption, is actually increase the efficiency of our public service. If there is going to be a delay in the issue of licenses, it is the responsibility of that particular department to inform people. An informed citizenry is a more responsive citizenry. Then it removes the pressure that comes with it. And we have a nascent anti-corruption bureau within us, and they are here, and they would be able to advise me perhaps at a later time in the breakfast what we're going to do with that case. My job is to protect South African citizens, especially women, because they have a special place in our country. And I would not want you to suffer the kind of problems that you are suffering. And we will target that particular industry you're talking about to make an example that we can climb this mountain.
Well, how will the Bureau operate? I mean, how's it going to work with, Auditor General Nombembe, the Hawks, SIU, that kind of thing?
Yes. We have already established working relations with all of those. Our specific responsibility is the public service. The Hawks and the SIU deal with a whole range of other criminal activity across society. Ours is restricted to the public service with particular powers. And we have a working relationship with them, and they have seconded some staff to us to assist us to start off and work on this. The Auditor General has been complaining to me from the day I was appointed about the need to do something about some of these cases that he reports on a regular basis. In his report, he would report about irregular expenditure, and he would expect that something would be done about that. Some investigation would be done, and if there is criminal activity there, that the case would then be taken over to the police. And over again, nothing is done. So I said to the Auditor General, I'm going to help you. I'm going to do everything I can to help you on condition you take a sabbatical to go and teach the principles of financial administration at the School of Government. He has not responded, but I want him to commit to that.
Okay.
But the structural arrangement is that he will report to us very directly on cases that are where there is improper abuse of resources of the state, so that we can investigate it and resolve it for him. But he's a very direct link, and all other cases that are referred to us either by the provinces or by other organizations of state, we've already set the necessary infrastructure in place.
All right, table number 7, Jabu Majiza. Table number 7.
Morning, Minister. Mamdin. My name is Jabu Majiza, and the question I had was predominantly around, how does the new charter accommodate the PPP, which is the public-private partnerships? The reason we are asking about that point, you find that if you look at the past, most of the business or partnerships with the government have been driven predominantly from the financial interests. And hence you've been talking about issues around corruption and so forth. But going forward, how do we make sure that there's better partnerships between industry from the private sector and government?
Okay. Is that a level that you engage in as a public service?
No. I was going to say that it goes beyond my scope of responsibility, but where there is unfair practice, it would be possible for me to advise. On the PPP matter, I think it falls very squarely between the Minister of DTI and the Minister of Finance. But I have my gurus here, the DG of Public Administration, who would be able to assist me in responding to that question. Mr. Dipofa.
Okay. If we could get the microphone to Mr. Dipofa.
And while he's doing that, perhaps my legal advisor, Menzi Simelane, would be able to respond to the question that Ms. Mahasane is very concerned about, of ingrained, deep-rooted corruption in the industry that she is in.
If you could stand up and just reintroduce yourself.
Thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Marshall Dipofa from the Department of Public Service and Administration. The provisions around promoting public-private partnerships in the country are there in terms of the law and in terms of regulations. When they relate to business engagements, where services have to be provided to government in return for a fee, those are provided for in terms of the legislation that has been introduced by National Treasury. So to the extent that it involves things like the building of infrastructure, bridges, the building of roads, and so on, the provisions are there. But in terms of the current public service charter that the Minister has alluded to, the issue here has been to start a process where ourselves as government, together with organized labor, can agree on a set of values and principles around which we will work together. But this then becomes a public document, which the public as well can then use to hold us accountable. And on that basis, the invitation is also extended to the public to say, let's use this document to monitor the extent to which the partnership is working between ourselves as government and organized labor.
Okay. Advocate Simelane.
Yeah, thank you very much. The point suggests that that could be actually organized crime. In other words, the system that runs in that environment is designed in such a way that it enables those officials to facilitate bribery. So what needs to be done is to have that environment, whatever it is, probably a center or a particular office, approached more from a sophisticated fashion. Because what you are describing is not a once-off bribe request from one official. We are describing a system that's been put in place by that whole environment, probably from management to the entry-level position. So the delay is designed so that the others are able to do what they do. So that is an organized crime problem, and it will have to be dealt with in a slightly sophisticated way. So we'll talk after the breakfast. Thanks.
Okay.
I think what he wanted to say is that he will meet Ms. Mahasane immediately after this and make an example of what it is that we're going to do.
And I am concerned about this corruption thing because I do get the sense, Minister, it's so much easier to give the traffic cop 20 Rand than to go through the process of going to Loveday Street, wherever it is, to pay your fine, etc., etc. How do we change that? How do we...
Okay, can I just give you an example that comes to mind? I haven't thought this through. The problem is, if you give the traffic officer 20 Rand, you are, sedimenting corruption. You are assisting, you are aiding and abetting corruption. It's wrong. And you don't want to go through the processes of being taken to the police, whatever, and all of those things. There's a wonderful gadget called the cell phone. We all have it. Why don't you use it? Take a picture of the proceedings, give the traffic officer the necessary money, take his name, lodge a complaint. You've got all the necessary evidence. We need to start somewhere and set an example. Corruption is one of those most insidious criminal activities that once it gets hold of government, we will never be able to get out of it. And it is wrong. This is not what we fought for. And whatever is possible, we should fight it. Don't bribe an officer. I'd much rather, if I were you, I know the problem you'd go through, but I'd much rather say, I'm not paying a bribe, take me through the processes. And report this. Make sure that it is reported. Our lines are open. The Public Service Commission is open. These are public servants, traffic officers, and police. Report them.
So I suppose it's just changing our moral compass as the public.
And we have to. If we, as we want to instill a change of culture and attitude and responsibility in the public service, we've got to change our campus too. We can't be assisting them in corrupt practice when we want them to get out of it.
Okay. Table number 6, is that Naf Nteo? I hope I've read your writing properly. If you can just say your name.
You said it correctly. Naf Nteo from Estonia. Minister, I have 2 questions. One is around the efficiency of your structures in dealing with corruption. And the second question is around if you do have an investigative function within your department, just want to find out how adequate are they resourced to deal with the investigation. And this is informed by the report that the Auditor General has just related to. And the fact that you did mention that this should be the work of the internal employees to be resourced enough to be able to deal with to be able to deal with the corruption instead of getting this work to be given externally. I just want to find out how adequate is your function resource to be able to deal with this.
Yes. Well, our bureau is at a very nascent stage. We're still waiting to have it passed into law. But we have a core of people who have been dealing with this in the public service environment. And we have sought to get support from the law enforcement authorities that we are working with. And I am informed that they are very willing to support us and second people to us. We will start on a small scale. Our budget is very limited, and we are hoping that with the cases that we succeed in, we'll be able to gain the necessary confidence and build on it. But at the moment, it is on a small scale. The message we want to send is that, however small, we are determined that we will work on this. We are determined that we will cut the back of corruption, and the systems that we are putting in place ultimately are geared to do that. So we are dealing with this on an incremental basis. The concept is one that we have studied over a long period of time, and we think it will work.
One of the things that you said is that you don't want government employees to do business with government. But I mean, you know, oldest trick in the book, you get your brother or your wife who uses a different name. How are you going to get around that? Because at the end of the day, you're pretty much doing the same thing, aren't you?
Yeah. That is one that I have been at loggerheads with my legal advisors. The legal advisors say, Minister, you cannot punish the wife of an employee of state because you are infringing her constitutional rights or his or her constitutional rights. But the systems that we have in place require anybody who is dealing with a tender process to declare whether or not they have any conflict of interest or whether any members of their family have any conflict of interest. This we will monitor very regularly and make sure that it does not happen. Because it was intended that should you have a conflict of interest or should a member of your family stand to gain from what you're processing, that you recuse yourself. But we're dealing with this matter, and by the time we have the regulatory framework, I come from a very regimented background. It would have been no business, no wife, no mother, no child, but the Constitution doesn't allow me. So I have to abide by the Constitution, and I will stick strictly to what I'm advised legally is possible.
All right, okay. Table 27, you've put Mhlongo here as your name. Table 27. Where are you, table 27? Oh, okay. Probably gone for a quick smoke break. Table 15, Sello, Mosai. Table 15.
Morning, Honorable Minister and Peter. I'm coming from Productivity SA, and the reason why I came here today was you were going to discuss this topic. What I find missing in the discourse of government or public sector, especially when you talk about productivity, its effectiveness. People always emphasize the fact that this is a big machinery. It takes long to turn, things takes long to happen, and so forth and so on. And at the center of productivity, it's effectiveness, it's basically satisfaction, it's the quality of service, given that you are the biggest service provider in the economy. How are you planning to get this discourse? And I admit that it's a question of culture, but what would be the roadmap that could give us confidence that in the next, say, 6 months or 8 months, people begin, especially in the public service, begin to understand that service has to happen timeously, has to happen to meet the expectation, has to happen at the lower cost. Thanks.
Thanks. We've been having discussions with my team about exactly what does productivity mean, and as outlined by Basilio there, we have come to the general agreement that it means two things. We've got to train our people to understand how to be more effective at their job, how to be more responsive in their job. But at the same time, we have to have measuring instruments that are able to determine the time it should take for any service of government to be delivered. We have measurements that we've worked out for Home Affairs. It's taken a long period of time to accomplish this, but we started at Home Affairs in 1996 with people waiting for an ID for anything up to 6 months. I'm told it now takes 2 weeks. In exceptional cases, it takes 2 days, because we have put these time frames and timelines about what to expect and how we can actually fast-track delivery. If you go to Home Affairs, there is a complaints box. Should you be unhappy about the service that you're receiving, you are required and you are requested to fill in the form, and therefore we are able to see if there is satisfaction on the side of the customer or the citizen, and at the same time we are very strictly monitoring that we can put time frames about how services should be delivered. We are now moving and using the province of Mpumalanga and the province of Gauteng to put time frames and timelines for waiting periods for clinics and hospitals in these two provinces, because we've identified that we need to have these time frames so that we are able to be more productive, more efficient. The waiting time of our people for this service has been unacceptably high, and the two provinces have offered that they would be the pilot to do this. So we are working on this two-pronged approach: educate our public service, make sure that we have instruments that measure whether or not we are being productive. And as for the discourse, we are engaged with the matter. It might not be such a public matter, but it is a matter that we're engaged in. And with our team, the National School of Government, this is one of the things that they will have to tease out. What do we mean by productivity? What is it that we expect out of each and every person who comes out of the college?
So what is going to be different about the School of Government? Because it's had several incarnations over time, hasn't it? Samdi, Palama.
I know. Why do you have to? Why do you have to go on this? Fortunately, I have a task team of eminent and extremely experienced academics who are assisting me to establish this School of Government. And you were asking me what it is I do. I do everything. But I have people, very competent people who assist me to do that. And we have the head of that institution, Professor Job Mohoro, who is trying not to get my attention because he doesn't want to answer this question. But we will ask him to respond to that question. He was the principal of Samdi.
Right.
So he would tell us why they buried Samdi,
Okay.
why they reincarnated it in another form and buried that one. We've had 6 attempts.
Right.
This one, I'm told, is the 7th one, or it's the 6th one. But at every point when we have found inefficiencies in
Yeah,
the system,
yeah.
we've resorted to trying to
Another process.
to make it better, because it is a very important institution.
Okay.
Unless we train our public servants, we will never get to where we want to get to. But Professor Mokgoro is squirming in his chair there, trying not to respond, but I am going to insist that he responds.
Professor Mokgoro, the School of Government, the 7th coming.
Thank you very much, Minister, and thanks, Peter. Yes, indeed, there have been numerous attempts since 1994 at the learning and development approaches in the public service. We have recently concluded quite a comprehensive and extensive exercise through primary and secondary research to precisely get to the depth of this very question. What is going to be different with the National School of Government? Now, in the course of our investigation, it has become very, very clear that what actually impedes service delivery is not only limited skills and knowledge, but that there are deep-seated systemic issues. Systemic issues that have to do with the role of leadership and the preparedness of leadership to learn to learn. The responsibility of leadership to make sure that there is an enabling environment for those who have just acquired skills to actually put this into practice. The role of leadership in ensuring that the question of imperatives of service, the question of individual needs and competencies, the question of what an organization and a department needs to do as an integrated collective in order to respond to that imperative of service. Those things have rather been superficially and peripherally looked at. So it is those kind of systemic issues, in addition to a very simple and narrow understanding of skills and knowledge, that the school has to tackle. And in the minister's own words, it is really a question of getting a hard knock at matters of values, matters of ethos, and really those philosophical principles that underpin the whole notion of a developmental agenda and the understanding thereof. So the school this time around is going to move away quite drastically from simply shirking responsibilities and making the private provider as the facilitator of education, training, and development, but rather to ensure that that woman or man who stands in front of public servants in a learning environment is herself or himself imbued with that kind of value system that appreciates the triple challenges of development, inequality, unemployment, and so on. And therefore, the school is going to call on existing and serving senior managers as well as retired public servants who have demonstrated and in what they do manifest these values to be the facilitators, so that the selection of these facilitators is not only going to be driven by a profit motive as we have the arrangement now, but over and above the need to compensate those who would be facilitating, to really ensure that they subscribe not only through lip service, but indeed to what they have demonstrated in their working life, a commitment to these values. Minister, I can talk
I was just about to say that
I feared that might be the problem.
if you unleash an academic, this is what might happen. All right, okay.
In short, Peter,
yes,
we've learned from our mistakes.
Right.
And we've learned what has gone wrong with the previous attempts, and this time we are quite certain and have taken time that this is it.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. We will coach you this time next year.
Oh, yes, please do.
Table 6, Nelson Reddy, if you could be quick with your question, and I'll get a quick answer from Minister for you.
Morning, Minister. Just
Morning.
sweet. What are your views on the national health insurance? In terms of the public sector community, and what sort of benefits would you expect? What would benefit the public sector at large?
I see the DG of Public Service, of the Public Service Commission smiling. The National Health Insurance is a policy that we in the ANC have been working on for a very long time, and it has our full support. And we have been in negotiations with the Minister of Health to see how we can have joint ventures, because as you know, we have our own insurance in the form of GEMS, well-managed, well-run insurance system that covers all public servants. And we, at some point, need to find a way in which the two will merge and work together. But we would like to encourage the Minister to start with ordinary citizens who need the assistance of the National Health Insurance System and find us at the tail end, because right now we're doing very well, thank you very much, as GEMS.
All right. You've mentioned the ANC, and I'm just wondering, is one
yes,
of the...
it exists.
Yes. Is one of the challenges that you have, though, because this is, in the ideal world, the public service should be apolitical and serve the government, whichever it may be. The deployment of cadres into various positions, has that been one of the challenges in terms of efficiency, productivity, etc., etc.?
No, that is the figment of the imagination of some political parties.
So it's not happening?
Cadre development is responsible for the inefficiencies? No, absolutely not. But one of the outputs of having a professional public service that will go through the School of National Government is that every employee of state will have passed an exam. It doesn't matter what political party they come from. But you've got to understand where we come from. We come from a history where we found a government with the public servants that had a particular orientation. It was absolutely necessary that we infuse and change the culture of that public service to respond to the culture of the ruling party and the culture of the people of this country who had fought to make sure that they have a government that represents them, a government that has values that they can relate to. And we took on the responsibility of making sure that we put people who share our views and our values in those places where they can make a difference. And we call that cadre development. And it is something that is now being used over and over to hit us over the head with. I can assure you where we have deployed people, we've deployed them because they are necessary there and they have performed extremely well. The deterioration in the public service has come about because we probably have taken on more people who are not as professional as we would want to, and simply because they have the color black, it is called cadre development. That's not what we're about. And yes, indeed, we will have a public service that is apolitical, not non-political. In their private lives, they may vote and may do whatever, except perhaps in future we are hoping that we might do something about curbing their holding public office in a political party. Within the environment of the public service, the Constitution is very clear that public servants will serve the government of the day faithfully and diligently, whatever the government of the day is. So tomorrow, if it is the IFP government...
She smiles.
If it is the IFP government, Former Minister Mangosuthu Buthelezi will be very happy with the product that we're giving over to him. It will be a professional public service.
Okay, all right. Table number 17, Swabi. Let's see if we can get through these last few questions. Swabi, table 17.
Honourable Minister, it's more of a comment that our interventions are really paying off in terms of professionalizing the public service. You know, one gets overwhelmed when we get evaluations from trainings that we offer to our public servants. And we are really making strides and we are really making a difference. We realize that our public servants are beginning to realize their value in the whole of public service. And for the records, maybe Minister, I would like to be known as public service specialist.
Okay, well there you go. A big
There
up.
you go, girl. Thank you very much for introducing yourself.
Okay, table number 9, Des Mudlia, I think. Is that correct? Table number 9.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning, Minister.
Good morning.
It seems like there's a lot that we're putting on the school of government. And sometimes as parents you can make the mistake of saying to your children, don't let me catch you doing that. How do we, through the school, move beyond getting the public servants to comply to the letter of the course rather than the spirit of what we're trying to teach them? Thank you.
Okay.
I'm trying to digest the question.
Okay. Just thinking about it.
I'm not thinking about, I'm trying to
Yeah,
actually digest it so
Yeah.
that I give the correct
Right.
answer. What we're trying to do in the School of Government is create new values and new cultures. We're trying to create a public servant that is able to think on the job and interpret what is required of him. We're trying to support the public servant with the necessary knowledge that they will need to execute their job professionally. And I think the question that you're asking is, how do we teach them to effectively deal with their job in the spirit as opposed to what they have learned? Is that what you're asking?
Can we get the microphone quickly back to him? Okay.
Let me elaborate. In our country, we certainly plagued with, corruption is a word that comes up a lot. There's also a strong sense of entitlement that exists throughout, the society. And when members of society enter public service, certainly they don't leave their values behind. They take that with them into the government. We're talking about putting in place, methods of reporting corruption and bribery, etc. Instead of, forcing people to work around these things, how do we, through the school perhaps, infuse into them the spirit of just simply wanting to do what is good and right?
Okay, so it's change of culture, isn't it?
Yeah, that is about the culture. Well, the reason why we changed, one of the reasons why we changed from Palama to a school of government is because Palama was a conduit of our public servants, from the public service to the universities and tertiary education institutions that are out there that offer some of our courses. But what we found was missing was an essential link, the culture of a public service, the culture that we, as the ruling party, and you, who have voted us in, I hope you voted us in, but anyway, the people who have voted us in and believe that we will make a difference in their lives, that is a particular culture that we would like to infuse, and that is why we have a school of government, so that over and above any other educational facet that we're providing an ethos of knowing and understanding what their responsibility is. We're providing a cadre of government that is committed to ensuring that people come first and the services that they are entitled to are given to them. So it is the culture that we're concentrating on. It is part of our compulsory induction course, and it exists across all our courses. And by the time that our people graduate, they will have that culture. If they do not, then there would be something wrong with our coursework. But we're concentrating on that.
And sadly, that's where we've run out of time. Minister, it's been a great pleasure having you and getting to hear your thoughts. Ladies and gentlemen, the Minister of Public Service and Administration, Ms. Lindiwe Sisulu, please a big round of applause. She certainly does have a lot of work on her plate, but I think she's sort of jumped into the job running and has got a lot of things done already, and we wish her luck into the future with some of the initiatives she's already put into play. And you at home and all of us as a public can help her and stamp out things like corruption. Do not go after her public officials. She's warned you. Otherwise, you're going to spend time in jail. Okay, everybody have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow bright and early. Have a great day, everybody. Goodbye.